everyone, I'm Solika Aktar from Gurukul Online Learning Network, and we are here in our Gurukul English classes. As we have been doing our English for Today program for class 9 and 10, we are doing our lessons today on Unit 2, and it is about pastimes. The lesson that we are going to focusing on today is lesson 2, reading really helps. So that means we are going to read a lot today, isn't it? So let's move on and let's start. The things that we'll be learning after this class is knowing about some greatest Olympic athletes. Athletes, sportsmen who are really into sports, who are just achievers in sports or who just practice sports regularly and may take them as their career. So they are called athletes, and we will be knowing about some Olympic athletes. Do you know about Olympics? If you don't, why don't you Google it? So let's start. And we also be knowing about flowchart. What a flowchart means or how does a flowchart work? Let's see eventually. So first we will be starting with our text. But in this text, at first we have a dialogue. If you haven't still watched our lesson 1 video, you can just go and have a little recap that there was a conversation in between Anusha and Tia. So this conversation actually still continues in lesson 2. We will be first reading this conversation and then we will move on to the article that we have to read to know about the Olympic athletes. So let's start. Tia, hope you enjoyed the article on yoga. Yes, it's great. By the way, Anusha, how did you enjoy London Olympics as a sports lover? People rightly say that it is the greatest show on earth. I'm still thrilled to remember what Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt have shown. Amazing! So see, in this conversation, Anusha and Tia is talking about the 2012 London Olympics, the greatest show on earth. Yes, Olympics is called the greatest show on earth. So many people from so many countries, some spectacular audience, and the most hard-working sportsmen or the athletes we were talking about. And the main theme in this Olympic is about that brotherhood, friendliness or friendship, and that mutual respect. So see, they are talking about that Olympics they have been witnessing, and they are talking about two great athletes. One is Michael Phelps and the second one is Usain Bolt. So let's see what more does they talk about. Right you are. They are incredible. However, I have got an interesting article on the internet on Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. You might like it and take part in the debate on who is better between these two greats. Please read it. Ah, Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. Thank you, Tia. I would love to read it. See, as the lesson title is Reading Really Helps, there is another article that we have to read, and this is all about the debate that who is the better athlete in between Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. So what the fuss is about them, isn't it? Let's just start reading it and try to understand that what they're talking about and why this debate is going on. Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt are great, but who's better? With the curtains closing on the 2012 London Olympics, it's impossible not to look back and reflect on the greatest performances by Olympic athletes. So here we are. This is the closing remarks on 2012 London Olympics, right? And they are talking about the greatest performances done by the hardworking, consistent athletes to achieve or to gain glory for their country. Here is pictures of Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps as well. The Olympics have many memorable moments and athletes we will remember by name alone. The list is quite big. Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt are the latest addition to this list of the bests. They made London Olympics stand apart. If there is any question like this, what is the standout performance of London 2012? Perhaps the answer is the London Games gave us Michael Phelps versus Usain Bolt. The first one is an already decorated Olympian who put the finishing touches on his great athletic careers. And another came up with a new definition of fast. So here we are, they're introducing us with Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt, who had shown their best of the performances in 2012 London Olympics. However, Michael Phelps has just retired after his 2012 London Olympics performance. But Usain Bolt is still on the run and has tagged himself just as the fastest human being in the world. Do you want to know more? So let's move on to the article reading. Two of the most popular Olympic sports, sprinting and swimming, saw their two biggest stars captivating audiences. They had also dominated the 2008 Beijing Games, but Phelps and Bolt cemented their legacies in London. Phelps, the American swimmer, passed gymnast Larissa Latania for the most Olympic medals ever. Bolt was the third man to repeat as a 100-meter gold medalist and the first as a 200-meter gold medalist. And he broke his own Olympic record by running the 100-meter in 9.63 seconds. Once Phelps and Bolt were back in their pool and track, the storylines changed. Look at their records. They are just unbelievable. They can just fascinate the spectators of their games and they just have their whole attention drawing to them because they are on to make some great endeavors. And see, both of them had been very successful in 2008 Beijing Games, but still they had done better than their Beijing Games and have come with a very different vision in 2012 London Olympics. They have broke their own records. Just like Phelps had won the most medals, also Usain Bolt himself has just broken all the records in sprinting. Isn't it? It's extremely fascinating. Let's move. Phelps is the most decorated Olympian ever with 2002 overall medals, 18 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze. Bolt is the most accomplished Olympic sprinter with the unprecedented double, making clear that he's the fastest man in the world. But there is a debate who had the better Olympics. It would be tough to top Phelps' 8 gold medals in Beijing, but what if we are only talking London? So as the debate is going on, that is Phelps better or is Usain Bolt? Phelps is obviously better in Beijing because he had won 8 medals in there. But in London, who should be titled as the best one? So as we're talking about that, Phelps was the one who has been decorated with most of the medals. Yeah, see, like 22 overall, and 18 of those medals were in gold. But Bolt is someone who has just given the performance that was never seen before, that was never been experienced. That's why they have been talking unprecedented double and making clear that he's the fastest man in the world. So who can really be titled as the better one in London Olympics? Such an argument to go on. London was Phelps' grand finale. He won 4 golds and 2 silvers in 7 events again. And he says he will never race again. That means after London Olympics, Phelps has retired. And even in the London Olympics, he has won 4 golds and 2 silvers. 6 out of 7 events. And London was Bolt's chance to prove he is still the greatest. Bolt won 6 gold medals in 6 Olympic finals. He is the first man ever in the history of the modern games to sweep the 100 and 200 in back-to-back Olympics. Not to mention the addition of back-to-back relay golds. That means Bolt is someone who has been extremely consistent about his performance. He has just kept receiving gold medals in every event that he has performed in. So he's still the greatest. And Bolt became a legend in his own words. Phelps already was. Bolt is just 25 years old, so there is no telling how long he can be on top of the sprinting world. What if he decides to retire from sprinting to focus on the 400 meters just to break another world record or two? It would be amazing and entirely possible for him to accomplish. Who had better 2012 games? You tell us, let the debate begin. So the article adapted from USA Today, which is a sports magazine, in London 2012 Olympics, it is still saying that Bolt himself is legend in his own words. That means Bolt sees himself as a legend or sees himself as an extraordinary performer in sprinting. Phelps, who was already a legend by winning so much medals in his entire life that he just retired. Still, Bolt is very young and have chances to go for races again. There is just anticipation of the reporter that there might be chances that Bolt can just focus on some other activities of sprinting or just can go for 400 meters rather than just sticking on to the games he has right now. So, will Bolt do it? Even if he does it, probably Bolt will accomplish in there as well. So, we still have the debate to go on, like who had been better or who was the best in 2012 Olympic Games. Can you think of it about comparing Bolt and Phelps? What do you feel like? Such a tough question. So let us just think about it later. Why don't we just try to concentrate on the questions that we have in our English for Today textbook? The first question they have from the article that what makes London Olympic 2012 exceptionally sensational? Sensational, that means something very extraordinary, very captivating, fascinating, right? So as we have just read in the article that 2012 Olympic gave us the best performances from the best athletes, and that is what was the very specialty of this whole event. So the greatest performances from the greatest athletes was the Olympic sensational feature of 2012 London Games. How are Phelps and Bolt brilliantly similar and different? If we just go on to the article again, we can see that Phelps and Bolt, both of them have achieved so much, have achieved the greatest accomplishments in their career. One is in his swimming, another one in his sprinting, but both of them were the best whatever they were doing, right? So they were similar about their accomplishments or their achievements, but they were different as both of them had been in different games, right? The next one, between these two Olympians, who has bagged the highest honor with the same time frame? See, this is a very debatable question as the article presents itself, right? Like, who is the best in here, or who has bagged the highest honor? If we looked into Phelps' entire career, he has got all the greatest medals, and also Bolt, who himself has broken all his own records, also with the medals. So, whom are you just gonna say that bagged the highest honor? What is the special in Bolt so far? So Bolt is special because he is the one who in the modern games has swept the 100 and 200 in back-to-back Olympics, And also, not to mention, as the article says, that back-to-back relay golds as well. So why shouldn't we just call him special? He is special by being consistent, right? Also, how does Bolt evaluate himself? Bolt himself calls him a legend. He just thinks of him as an extraordinary sprinter in the modern times. This is how Bolt sees of himself. So these are some questions that are based on the article we have read, but one question still we don't have the answer of. Who had been the best? Think of it. Still keep thinking. Now, as we said that we are gonna learn about flowchart. So what is a flowchart? You can see in here that we have done a flowchart on Michael Phelps based on the information we have been given in the article. The first one was already done in the textbook, and that was about the greatest swimmer ever. Michael Phelps was the greatest swimmer ever. And the other information what we have learned about him is he was very dominating in 2008 Beijing Games. So the dominating athlete in 2008 Beijing Games is our second point in the flowchart. Also, he is the American swimmer, isn't it? We have read it in the article as well. Another point that we had read is the most Olympic medals winner he had been. So Phelps was the one who won 22 medals. We have also included this information. And the last thing we have learned about Phelps was that he is not gonna race anymore after 2012 London Olympics. So not in race after 2012 Olympics. This is a flowchart showing some information about Michael Phelps, and this information is taken from the article that we have read just right now. So while we are doing flowchart, we can have just some important things to notice. First of all, always using short phrases. If we just move on to our Michael Phelps flowchart, you can see we are using very short phrases to move on with. Next, we will only use the very important information. Another thing about flowchart is it has to have a flow. That means it really needs to maintain the sequence of information. If we go through the article again and the flowchart again, you can see these informations have been given in the text one by one. In this sequence, we have gained this information from the article. The sequence has been strictly maintained. Also, if stylistically we say, or in aesthetically say, we need to use the arrow signs and we need to keep the structure similarity. Just like the boxes should be in the right shape and the arrow should be very precise. Also, in sentences, we need to keep the structural similarity. Like the phrases we are using, you can see most of the phrases are started with the. Yes, so these are some very formal tips to have a good flowchart. You have another flowchart to do, and that is on Usain Bolt. Again, the textbook has the first one done, the most successful sprinter. So you need to read the article again and find out some information about Usain Bolt and fill up this flowchart. Can you do it? I guess you can. So this will be your homework to finish the flowchart on Usain Bolt. Also, you should go through the activity D in your textbook. It is very easy. It's just completing sentence again, but you have the clues to complete it, and also it's just a paragraph. So as we say, fill in the blanks. Very easy to do. You have the clues, you will just pick up, fix it and set it up. The paragraph will be done. And another thing, so you have learned about the greatest Olympic athletes, right? Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. Do you have any particular Olympic athletes of your own who is your very favorite? And why he is favorite to you or why she is favorite to you? You can share it with us. You can just go to the comment section of our video here and just share your favorite Olympic athlete. So who is your favorite Olympic athlete? Share it with us, and you can also share the accomplishments of them. So here you can find the other links of the videos in the video description. You can go back and forth, recap, recheck and stay tuned with us for the further videos. So till then, take care. Bye-bye.